Alright, hello everyone, I'm Unsung, your friendly neighborhood NPC, and we are back here with Pathfinder Kingmaker. As I've said, and will continue to say, is one of the best CRPGs of all time, if not the best. It sure is the best in my opinion. Anyway, if you're here, that means that you like big muscles. Well, unfortunately, I don't have those. But what I do have is advice on how to build a character with big muscles. A strong boy or girl. So that's what we're looking at. We're kind of going into some different build ideas briefly, and then going into the feats and talking about what feats could be useful when using a strength-based combat character in Pathfinder Kingmaker, and also in Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, which is coming out soon. If you haven't jumped on that bandwagon yet, I highly suggest you do so, because it's going to be awesome. Alright, so I'm just going to briefly kind of go over some builds that I quite enjoy in terms of strength-based characters. We're not going to get too deep into them because I am going to be uploading videos on the different classes and builds with those classes. So that's going to be something else to look out for. But here it is. One of my favorite, all-time favorite builds is the Halfling Dazzling Tank. Basically what the Halfling Dazzling Tank does is it's a Halfling with a giant shield. And I know what you guys are thinking. How can a halfling be a strength-based tank if there's only 8 strength at the start for a halfling? Well, that's because you're not thinking with your imagination, okay? Because optimizing builds, getting the best stat points and the best stat boosts and the best race with the best class and yada 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 is not how I play, okay? I play for what's fun. What's creative? What's something that someone else might not think about? Those are the builds that I look for. And the Halfling Dazzling Tank takes the cake as a strong boy character. So what I do is I take a little halfling, I make him a big bad fighter, I give him a giant tower shield, and obviously I'm just whiffing the stats, like, unimportant for this context here. Alright, skills, yada yada. What I would say, if you're doing a strength-based character, take athletics, because honestly, it's the only strength skill, and if you're not going to do it, who else is going to do it? That being said, if you're a heavy armored character and you're not a fighter, athletics will be hard, because you're going to get massive penalties to your athletics check while wearing armor or carrying shields. That can be mitigated if you are playing a fighter because of all of the armor training, and if you're a tower shield specialist, tower shield training that you get, decreasing penalties. So that's very important to note. The other thing I would recommend, persuasion. Persuasion is so good for a strength-based character because on top of being a good stat for RP, it also has a bunch of other uses for fighters, especially strong people. Okay? So, what I like to look at first when creating a tank. Okay, if you're doing this in a tank character, alright, I've got some feats that I think are going to be crucial for you. If you're someone who's looking for more of a two-handed fighter, then that's going to be the thing that we go over next. So if you want to skip to where that is, I'll also provide timestamps. And if you're looking for a one-handed strength fighter, well, you're using the wrong stat. Because if you want to be a duelist, you should use dex, not strength. I don't always think we should optimize builds to our perfection, but being a strength duelist is just not viable, even in the slightest. And I'll do a little blurb at the end about being a strength dual wielder. or a dual wielder that has some strength. So, right now, tank, okay? Things that I always look for. Okay, armor focus. Need to know what kind of armor you're taking at the beginning. If you want to be a heavy armor, which if you're a tank, you probably should, heavy armor focus, okay? That's going to be one of your go-to feats right there. The other ones, dodge, gets you a point of AC. Why not take the free point of AC? Heavy armor focus gets you a point of AC. The other one, shield focus. Free point of AC while using a shield. So all three of those are great feats to take because they're just handing you free AC points, and there's no reason not to take them. As a fighter, you're not going to have that many other feats that you need to take, and you get a plethora of combat feats, bonus combat feats for most of the combat-oriented classes. The other thing that I would recommend, toughness. Okay, toughness is where it's going to get you a lot more health. And if you're a tank, you need the health, right? And then die hard. Okay, die hard, it's like potentially makes, it's like giving you orc ferocity. Okay, so if you're an orc, I would say that you don't need die hard at all. In fact, I don't even think it lets you take die hard. But if you're not an orc, die hard is great because you'll drop to 0, you'll come back up and fight for one more round, and then you'll go back to 0. So you get a whole other round of being a useful tank, and one round can change the entire game. Okay? So those are the initial ones that I would suggest always. Cautious fighter is essential. And this is why I love halflings, because this is a halfling feat. Okay? When you fight defensively, your AC increases by 2. Fighting defensively is a mode that you can use in combat that allows you to take penalties to your attack in exchange for dodge bonus to your armor class, to your AC. Okay? Highly recommended tanks use fighting defensively whenever possible. If you're a halfling, your cautious fighter just gives you an increase to that AC by 2. That's so much AC added on. So you should, like, that's why I love halflings. They're so great. They're so small. We love them. Alright. Okay. The other thing that we need to look at, okay? I'm going to show you guys all the feats. I'm going to unhide all of them. Don't be alarmed. Okay, there are a lot. There are a lot of feats. I know. We have to get through it. I'm sorry. Okay? Now, there's a lot of different combat feats in here. As a fighter, you get a bonus combat feat, right? And there are some interesting things that you can go for. I think, you know, combat mobility can be good. Gives you plus dodge bonus to your armor when moving around enemies, so they have less chance of a hit you with their attacks and opportunities. If you're tanking, I don't know how much that's needed because tanks should just, you stay put, okay? You stay put. Listen, this crane style crap, a lot of people are gonna be like, just take a dip into monk and then you can get crane style and be an even better tank. No, stop it. Being forced to be a lawful alignment just so you can take 1 or 2 levels in another class is a poor role-playing decision and will decrease the amount of fun you have in this game. If you're someone who's like, I don't think it's going to matter, or the alignments don't matter to me anyway, well, I mean, you're in control of your own fun. To each their own, okay? But I think the alignment system, the decisions your character can make, the role-playing, the immersion of being your character in this game is what makes it fun, okay? I love strategy, don't get me wrong. I love building the perfect party with what I can, but I also love it to make sense. And I love for characters to be classes that make sense for them. I love everything to have a reason, a backstory. So if you're like me, dipping into monk just to take a crane style and increase your AC with fighting defensively is not worth it. If you are a monk class and you want to be a monk tank, crane style is perfect for you, and you should definitely take it because it decreases penalty for fighting defensively and gives you additional armor class for fighting defensively, and then you get all these extra feat things with it as well. Honestly, great selection if you're a monk. Something that every class that is a dex or strength based or ranged combat character needs to choose: weapon focus, critical focus. Weapon focus, critical focus. You need to specialize in a weapon, and you need to upgrade your critical hits for that weapon later on. I think that activates at like level 10. Yeah, base attack 9. So sometimes level 9, sometimes level 10, sometimes level 11. You never know. But honestly, those tools are going to be so important for you. Weapon focus unleashes a ton of different combat feats you can get. And it's very important if you are focusing on combat, okay? If you're a fighter, if you're doing damage dealing with weapons, or you're shooting with a bow, or you're casting raise spells, or you're a tank of some kind even, weapon focus is great. There's no reason not to take it. It just increases your attack rolls. It's fantastic. Okay? Here's what I love though. Dazzling Display. First of all, needs weapon focus. Right there. As I said. Okay? But also, it uses your persuasion. This is why being a tank or a two-handed fighter and picking persuasion is so cool. Because Dazzling Display is an ultimate tanking move. Okay? It allows you to intimidate everyone within 30 feet and demoralize them, which, makes it a lot easier in combat. First, also, greater shield focus. If you're a shield fighter, greater shield focus, extra AC, do it. Do it. On top of that, where did it go? Shield Master is for shield bashing. So if you're going in a different direction and you want to shield bash, you can take 2 weapon fighting and shield master. There's also a shield bash feat, I believe. Bashing finish is another one of those. Needs shield master. So lots of different shield things to do, which is why I love. And then there's also missile shield. Missile shield. Alright. It's kind of like having deflect arrows, but instead it's blocking them with your shield. So if you take shield focus, you can take missile shield, and it's just once per round you block a ranged attack, which is cool. It's a free block, right? Any tank will appreciate a good free block. So these are the kind of things that you want to think about when building a tanky, strength-based character. Okay? Feats that increase AC, like I said, Dazzling Display if you're into it, and just anything that can block attacks. You're just blocking. You don't have to go into all this other stuff about, all this other stuff for like combat maneuvers or anything having to do with skills unless you want to. Like I said, you can do anything you want. Don't let anyone tell you that you can or can't do something. If you think what you've come up with is really freaking creative and awesome, stick to it. Seriously, just do it. It's gonna be great. Okay? Unless you're playing a hard difficulty in this game, it's gonna be doable no matter what you are. All right. Now, two-handed fighters. All right, two-handed fighters. First of all, would not recommend Tower Shield Specialist. We're gonna go to half orc, just cause. Bump. Okay, half orc. Also, still recommend athletics and persuasion. Okay. And here we are, two-handed fighter, weapon focus, even more critical than if you're a tank, okay? Weapon focus is so important because if you want to be able to do things with your two-handed weapon, you need to be able to focus in on it. All right? So you pick a two-handed weapon. We're going to go with Earthbreaker. All right? So if we're going with Earthbreaker, there's lots of different feats here that we can go for. If at some point you want to take blind fight, you can. It's kind of nice to have. I don't see the much need for it in game, to be honest. Okay. Any AC gaining feat can be good and useful, but only do it with the extra feats that you have. All right, don't really go hard on the AC if you don't need to. That's what tanks are for. Okay, so I would definitely go with something like... Let me get into the weapon feats here. If you have weapon focus, great. That's the first step, right? Cleave and power attack. Power attack is great. Okay, power attack gains you damage and just decreases your attack bonus. But if you're a two-handed fighter, you are stacking that attack bonus as much as you can anyway. Cleave will allows you to make a single attack, and then if you hit, you deal damage normally and can make additional attack against a foe that's next to it, which is awesome. So you're just like, cha, cha, instead of just cha, which is like, it gives you like a free attack. And then if you make a melee attack and your target drops to 0 or fewer hit points, you can make another melee attack within another opponent within reach. So cleaving finish. So that's like getting another attack. So you're just like, ja, ja. Oh, you died? Ja. Like, you're just stacking these attacks. And here's where persuasion can help. If you have power attack and enough persuasion ranks, when you damage an opponent with a power attack, you may make an immediate intimidate check to demoralize your opponent. So while the tank's over there dazzling their display and just demoralizing everyone with their amazing dazzle, you're over here like smash and just scaring the crap out of everyone around you. Like all of the demoralization, all of the intimidating combined makes for a very powerful combo, and something that I'm excited to dive more into in my next playthrough. So Kernigan Smash, amazing ability if you build a persuasive fighter here. Critical focus, like I said, always important. Always. But there's also critical mastery. Okay? And critical mastery is something that a fighter level 14 does. So it's for fighters, and you have to have other critical feats. So there's exhausting critical, sickening critical, right? Where's all the other criticals? Where'd it go? Sickening critical, staggering critical, tripping critical, tiring critical, not tripping. Tripping critical would be overpowered. Tiring critical. Okay, getting these lets you do things when you score critical hits. And if you're going to be a two-handed fighter, you're going to be trying to score as many critical hits as you can, I feel like. So those are great abilities to have as well. Weapon specialization gets you bonus to damage. Weapon specialization is awesome. Okay? If you have a fighter level 4 with weapon focus, take weapon specialization and specialize in that weapon. Alright? You could Slender Armor. Slender Armor is cool. Basically what it does is you're dislodging the armor worn by your opponent, right? So if your combat maneuver is successful, they lose their AC for 1 round, they lose their armor for 1 round. So not their dodge. So if you're fighting a strength-based tank, Slender Armor is great because that means they're not going to have a lot of like armor to deal. They don't have a lot of AC left to deal with because they're not going to be high dex characters. They're going to be strength based characters. So that's another great one to get. Improved critical for sure. Hammer the Gap is also fun. I don't recommend it for two hammer fighters. I think it's more fun for ranged characters or for dual wielding characters. But if you want to take Hammer the Gap and you have a free feat space, I mean, do it. But you've also got things like greater weapon focus, greater weapon specialization, improved cleaving finish. Okay, you're going to find out that with these different combat feats, the thing that's going to happen is you're just going to be gaining stacks on key abilities. So the goal here, right, is to pick a way that you want to go, pick a route that you want to go. Okay, you want to focus on Cleave? Great. You want to focus on Kernigan Smash? Fantastic. You want to focus on doing combat maneuvers instead? Whatever works for you. But hone in on those paths. Do a mix of them if you want to. And just build your feats upon that. Okay, most of the feats titles will be able to tell you that this will go with this or this will go with this. And there's a lot of these like, this is suggested, so take power attack kind of thing, right? And if you're a two-handed fighter, honestly, I don't know a better class that you could take than two-handed fighter or barbarian. Also great for two-handed fighters. And slayers. Slayers are also fantastic for any type of combat, really. So, any of those would be great for two-handed fighters. All fantastic options there. You could honestly do a two-handed fighter paladin if you wanted to. I think they're better as tanks, but, I mean, go for it. Ranger, you get to choose any combat style as well. Two-handed fighter, sure. You gotta do what feels right to you. Don't let anyone tell you how things are supposed to be. Okay? The thing that I can't stress enough is to come up with something fun. Because let me tell you, you're stuck with this character for 18 to 20 levels. Okay? So if you don't enjoy it, you're gonna be suffering the entire time. Pick a character that you enjoy doing. Test some things out in the Endless Dungeon, in the Beneath the Stolen Lands mode, if you have that on your game. Okay? Don't be afraid to respec if you feel like respecing. But find something that's fun for you, that you enjoy playing, that is entertaining. I've given you some tips to power through some of these feats because, let me tell you, even as a very experienced tabletop player and CRPGer, these are overwhelming. Okay? It's a long list. They don't categorize the list. It's very confusing sometimes to look at. Like, I just skip over all of it, you know? But hopefully you've kind of learned in this video what is going to be helpful to you and what feats you should look at and which feats you can totally ignore. Okay, so for strength-based fighter, you don't need anything related to finesse, and you don't need anything related to spell casting. Okay, those are not crucial. You don't need them. Most two-handed fighters cannot cast spells. So you don't need any of that. You don't need any ranged attack feats, okay? Any of that mess. That's why all of those have big thumbs down, right? You don't need point blank shot. You don't need rapid shot. You don't need deadly aim. You don't need any of that mess. Alright? Because of your ridiculous strength here. So you don't need it. The other thing that I wanted to show you guys, right, is a two-handed, or not a two-handed, a dual-wielding feat. Okay? And it's called Double Slice. Now, Double Slice, if you have 15 dexterity at least and 2 up in fighting, which means like if you're still a dex-based character, you can add your strength bonus to damage weapon rolls made with your offhand weapon. Okay. If you have a dexy-based character, or maybe your dex and strength are even, or you have dex but your strength still has a little bit of oomph in there, then you can take double slice and add that strength to your damage. No reason not to if it gives you more damage, right? Always an option. So don't be afraid to mix it up. Don't be afraid to do what you want despite what the optimized builds will tell you. Okay? There's nothing aggravates me more than the optimized character builds, because I just don't think that putting so much stress into making a character is that fun. I like to think about it in a role-playing aspect, not a math game. But to each their own. If you like the math game, then there's some really cool guides out there for optimized builds. I highly suggest taking a look at those. They might be helpful to you. You know, do what feels right. So that's all I have to say about our strength-based characters here. Hopefully you learned something in this video, learned at what feats to look at, what feats to completely don't need, and that this was helpful. So once again, I'm UnsungNPC. I am happy to bring you more guides about how to play this game and build a character here, because let me tell you, it is a task. So if this is helpful, great. If this wasn't quite what you're looking for, we've also got guides for dex builds, spellcasting builds, and ranged attacking builds. So take a look at those.